So today we're going to mount a scope on our new Finlight 2 here. And most people are familiar with the two-piece Optilock rings and bases, but what I'm going to be using today is the one-piece Optilock Ring Mount. And if you're not familiar with this, it's a great option, especially on a lighter weight rifle. It's considerably lighter than the two-piece mounts, and it's equally as sturdy, but it does mount a little bit differently than the two-piece. So that's what we're going to go through. So we've got all our stuff set up. We've got the new Finlight 2 in device here. We've got our Zeiss Conquest V4 that we're going to put on it. We've got our rings. We've got our tools. Get everything unpacked and we'll show you how to put it together. So we've got everything unpacked now. So the first thing we're going to do is put the bottom half of our rings on, and there is a front and a back to these rings. And you'll notice up top here, there's a slot. And what that is, it's the recoil groove, and there's a recoil pin on one of these rings. So it's really important that you use the right ring, and we just slide it in, and you see it just pushes right into there. So you want to make sure that's pushed all the way ahead. And then we just take our lock here on the other side, and there's a small wedge on the bottom of this, and obviously it's got to fit right into that groove. So I'm just going to put that there. Grab my screwdriver. Now these are got to be torqued quite high. It's actually 80 inch-pounds, so go, just make sure that's pushed all the way forward. And then we're gonna crank that down to 80 inch-pounds. And that clicks, good. So we take and do the same thing on our front, and make sure your screw goes in the same side. Now this is where they're a little bit different than the two-piece. With the two-piece mounts and rings, you want that flush. With these, you want it about halfway ahead. And what happens is, if you run out of windage adjustment on your scope, if you actually push this a little bit ahead, it'll move your point of impact to the right. And if you pull it a little bit back, it'll move your point of impact to the left. So typically what I do is start kind of right in the middle, and I go to the range. And then if I find that I just don't have enough windage one way or the other, it's just a matter of moving that a little bit. So that's the big difference with the one piece here versus the two-piece mounts. So I'll get that in there. Again, just making sure that wedge goes into the groove. Again, I cranked it down and it clicks. So really important you do have a torque screwdriver as well. So the one thing about the Optilock rings versus a lot of other rings is there's no need to lap them, because we do use a plastic insert in them. So you need to make sure you've got the right size for your scope. So I've got a 30 mil tube on the Zeiss, so we've got 30 mil rings obviously. Put our insert over the scope like this. And then I like to have the opening on the insert toward me. So what you do is you want that insert so the opening is sitting horizontal. And the reason for that is, and people often ask me what the reason for that is when you push those rings down on top, it compresses that, because that's what ultimately holds your scope is this. So great thing about these inserts is, like I say, you don't have to lap your rings, and also what they do is they prevent you from getting any marks or anything on your scope. So we're just going to put our top of our rings on, and we'll put all the screws in this. And I'm just going to tighten these up enough so that the scope is just snug in there. There we go. So I'll get all these in, and then I'll show you what we're doing. Okay, so I've just got this snugged up. What I want to make sure is that scope can still move back and forth and rotate, but I don't want it so loose that it's not going to hold in place. So I think we're pretty good right there. The other thing when you're tightening these rings is make sure your spacing's equal here from side to side. You don't want to tighten them all the way down on one side and have a big gap on the other side. So it's really important to keep equal pressure on those. So now what we want to do is set the eye relief on the scope, and really the only way to do that is look through it. So let's take it out of the vise here and put it on at lowest magnification and just look through it. So, if you have to move your head forward or back, what you want is a full ring there. If there's any black at all on the sides of the rings. You know, you got your scope too far ahead or too far back. So just put your head where it normally falls. Just gonna move that back just a little bit. And that looks just perfect for me right there. Yeah, so what I like to do is just shoulder it a couple times. Make sure everything looks perfect, and it does. So that's got my eye relief set now, and that's pretty well the only way to do that. So now what I'm gonna do, put this back in here. Now what we wanna do is level our scope on the rifle. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna level the rifle first in the vise. So get that level in there, and then we'll take the other level, set it on top. And now how we level the scope to the rifle is just by rotating it. Not too much. And that looks perfect right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish tightening down my screws. And again, it's just going even all the way around. Now these need to be torqued to 15 inch-pounds, so quite a bit less than the big one was. You definitely don't want to over torque these because you can snap them quite easily. So I'm just going to go finish that, get those torqued, and then we'll take a look at it. And just check them. I like to just go around once, check them all, and bang, they're all good. So really important that you have the right tools to do this. You know, the rings do come with these Torx keys, but I don't really like them. It's really worth spending the money to get the right tools and also to get the Torx driver, because you'll never know exactly what tension you have them at. And you know, if you don't get these torqued to the right amount, either the scope can move or you can snap a screw off in there pretty easily. But take that out, give her one more look. That looks perfect. Well, now we'll get this Finlight 2 to the range.